Now, Prime Minister, you've spoken of this incredible group that you've taken with you, the delegation, and as you describe it, that demonstrate the best of our culture and values. I had the honour of interviewing one of those with you, Saba Abraham, and heard about her wonderful contribution to Australia. Can you share some of those experiences that you've found have particularly resonated with you?
Well, of course, Ms Abraham did extraordinary work during COVID with people who were vulnerable. The extraordinary contributions, of course, of people like Dylan Alcott, who's a part of this delegation, someone who is an inspiration for Australians. He's been to London before, of course. He won the Wimbledon title 3 times and is an inspiration, someone who has dealt with a difficult life by cherishing it and valuing it and asserting that people who have disabilities can participate fully in life, and it's important that he, as the Australian of the Year, is here. We have people from such a broad range, every state and territory being represented here, people from Indigenous backgrounds, people from different backgrounds that reflects our multicultural nation, but all coming together to represent Australia at this important time. And I'm very proud to have had the opportunity to be here. And it does say something about the late Sovereign, Her Majesty, that these issues were put in place. This planning was put in place a long while ago. Her Majesty had input into the service that will take place on Monday, including the nature of the representation, and that's why we have followed the protocol to the letter, including the invite to 10 Australians who'd made a contribution to their community. And later this morning at lunchtime at Australia House, we'll be gathering for a lunch that will also include prominent Australians who are based here in the United Kingdom. This is a time for our nation to come together. It's a time for unity, and the delegation that I have led here is very much a part of that, and it's an honour for myself and the Governor-General and the Acting High Commissioner to represent Australia at this time.
Prime Minister, it's your first audience with the new King this weekend. What's your message to him?
My message firstly, of course, is that whilst Australia and the Commonwealth has lost a sovereign, he of course has lost his mother. So the first is a very personal one. He is going through a bereavement, a loss of his mother so soon after he lost his father. So on a personal note, it is to convey our condolences on behalf of Australia to King Charles, but also to engage with him as our new head of state, a first meeting, and I very much look forward to that discussion. He will also host an event tonight, Sunday night, at the Palace for heads of state and heads of government that have come from around the world. We've seen not just Commonwealth nations, but President Biden, of course, will be present as well. And so King Charles, I think, is going through an extraordinarily difficult time on a personal level, and at the same time, he, as the new head of state, the new sovereign, has of course visited around the United Kingdom in the last week as well.
We've got the National Memorial Service this Thursday after your return. Have you got any further detail you can share with our viewers on that?
Yes, Kieran. Melissa Doyle will be the MC for the memorial service. Anthony Kalia will be performing at the service, and it will bring together each of the premiers and chief ministers have all confirmed their attendance, as well as the governors from the respective states, as well as leaders of the judiciary, including all of the justices of the High Court, as well as federal members and senators. Myself and Peter Dutton, as Leader of the Opposition, will both give short tributes to Queen Elizabeth, and it will be an opportunity to mourn as a nation. As well, there will be events taking place in states and territories, hosted by local government, hosted by local communities around the nation. So it will be an important day to pay tribute to the life and service of Queen Elizabeth II.
It's also your first meeting this weekend with the new British Prime Minister, Liz Truss. What's your priority in that discussion?
Well, the relationship between Australia and the United Kingdom is, of course, a critical one. We have an important defence relationship through AUKUS. Our political system is based upon Westminster, and so we have that history behind us. We also have important people-to-people links. So many of Australians have direct links back to the United Kingdom. And so it's an important relationship. Increasingly, it's an important economic relationship as well. It is important that the trade agreement be finalised and ratified between Australia and the United Kingdom. But I had a discussion with Prime Minister Truss last Friday to express Australians' condolences to her. I also shared a platform with her at the NATO summit in Madrid. So that is good that we start off having built a relationship initially by both of us having a platform there to talk about national security and indeed security around the globe. We share a support and commitment to the international rule of law, and the context of that, of course, particularly is the Russian invasion of Ukraine, but also the strategic competition that we're seeing in our own region. So I'll be talking about our common interests that we share and how we can cooperate further and how we can build that relationship so it's even stronger in the future.
And Prime Minister, do you see it as a positive that the UK sees itself as a Pacific power once again? And I ask you that in the context of that regional pressure that you spoke of that our country sees right now.
It is important, Kieran, and the nations that have relationships in the Pacific, including, of course, the United Kingdom, but also we've seen increased engagement from the United States as well as from France. President Macron will be here in London over the weekend as well, and that's an important relationship there. It is important that Australia has provided assistance to our Pacific neighbours, the 10 nations who have those strong connections with the United Kingdom as part of the Commonwealth. Australia has assisted in bringing Pacific leaders to the Queen's funeral on Monday, and that is just another way in which those common links that we have and common values that we have as democratic nations as well has been expressed. So I look forward to further discussions with Prime Minister Truss, building on that relationship, not just here in Europe, where Australia has been engaged, of course, providing assistance to Ukraine's historic and quite extraordinarily inspirational struggle against the Russian invasion, but also engagement in global affairs, because we do have common interests. And of course the United Kingdom has been a leader as well in acting on climate change, and I know that when I spoke with former Prime Minister Johnson, he very much welcomed Australia's commitment under my government to acting on climate change, and I know that Prime Minister Truss is very conscious of that as well.
Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, I know you've got a very busy few days in London. I very much appreciate you making the time. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Kieran.